Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar from Würth Elektronik and Phoenix Testlab together to the topic cybersecurity. My name is Michael Lang. I will guide you through this webinar today, and I'm responsible at Würth Elektronik for wireless connectivity and sensor products. And I'm supported by these two guys today. They will introduce themselves shortly.
Hi, my name is Tobias Vogler. I'm with Phoenix Testlab since the 1st of January, so pretty new to the company, but I've already some experience in cybersecurity, basically from the critical infrastructure point of view, and I'm now responsible for business development in this section of cybersecurity.
Perfect, thank you. Tobias?
My name is Aditya Madanahalli. I am with Elektronik ISOs for almost 7.5 years now, working in the division wireless connectivity and sensors, responsible for all IoT projects in the company, of which cybersecurity is one of the most important topics that we are going to talk about more today, right?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, you two. Starting with you, Adi, I have a question for you. What is cybersecurity, basically?
Cybersecurity comes from the whole IT world, where we talk about securing the network and securing all the devices that are connected to the network. And this has become more and more relevant and important because there are more and more embedded devices, so-called IoT devices, being connected to the network, to the internet, which means it is also important to make sure that these devices are protected, and in turn, the whole internet is protected from these devices. So this is where the whole concept of cybersecurity comes from, and it is relevant for us today because we talk about low power, low energy devices and so on that are also connected to the internet.
Yeah. Thank you very much. At this point, we want to ask you the first question, which is, have you already dealt with cybersecurity at all? So you will find a poll, and we are happy to get some answers from you, how you have already worked with cybersecurity. And so the answers coming in. So most of you have already worked with cybersecurity or have had some ideas about it. Perfect. So thank you very much. And with this, I come to the next question for Tobias. We have the Cyber Resilience Act. We have the Radio Equipment Directive, a lot of wordings. Can you bring a bit more clarification into it? What is the difference and what do we have to think about there?
The RED is for all of the devices that have a radio interface on them, which have the capabilities to have any kind of radio communication. And the CRA is not in action right now, but it's coming. So the request for standardization is already in progress.
It's by end of 2027, right?
By the end of 2027, right. And the RED is more from the point of the product itself and how the product is secured so it doesn't cause any harm to the internet or any other network. And the CRA is more focusing on the whole process of the whole life cycle of a product. So
yeah, perfect.
The next step.
Perfect, thank you. So at this point, we have a second question for you. Which radio technology is interesting for you or will be used by you now or in the future? As we heard, Radio Equipment Directive, of course, deals with all radio products or products which have a radio interface. And yeah, so it's interesting for us to get the information how you will or which technology is interesting for you. And we get answers mainly Wi-Fi. Very interesting. We had the same session in the morning, and also there Wi-Fi was the biggest part. Also Bluetooth, cellular, proprietary or others. But here the main topic is Wi-Fi, surely. Thank you for your answers. And yeah, to get RED compliant, we have different possibilities, Tobias, right? Which are the standards available?
Currently, this is the EN 18031 standard. There were other standards like the 62443-4-2 or the 303645, but they are focusing on the security of the product itself.
Yeah.
The later standards that I mentioned, and the 18031 is about protecting the network from the device, from any harm that the device may cause. So there are different perspectives of the standards, and but there are also mapping tables from the 62443 and the 303645 to make it compatible to the 18031 standard.
Yeah, perfect. So we have the third question, and don't be scared, I will not continue with that many questions, but we have one question. Did you already acquire the EN 18031 standard? And you will get the question now. Yeah, here it is. And so we're interested how many of you have already done it. Okay, most of you, of course, don't have it. Yes, that is what we expected, to be honest.
Same as in the Germans.
Yeah, same as in the German session, and yeah, as we thought it would be, it is. So the EN 18031 standard, we have a few topics there. It's kindly different. And Tobias, it would be great if you can give us a short introduction to the standard, how it works, how it is built up.
Okay, sure. It has 3 parts, -1, -2, and -3. The -1 part is about protecting the internet and protecting other networks, mainly internet. And the second part is about protecting privacy data. And the third part is protecting financial data to prevent fraud.
Yeah.
That's basically it. We have some slides where we can go into more detail later.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Then you can start with the presentation. A few slides to bring you more into the AN 18031 to get some information there. And feel free to also ask already questions into the chat. We will bring them into the discussion as it fits.
Sure.
So then it's your turn.
Is it visible? Now it is.
Now it is.
Okay, so basically what you may already know, the RD has different requirements to be compliant to the RD. This is basically Article 3.1. This is health and safety, and the EMC part and the radio part. So your device has to be compliant for that. This is what you may already know. And the cybersecurity part is now new. This is Article 3.3. And since the 30th of January, I think it was, the standard is fully harmonized. So this means you don't need a notified body to check, to certify your device. So you can basically do a self-assessment and do a self-declaration. What this means, we can talk about later, where we have some information on later slides. But basically, this is where the cybersecurity is located in the RED directive. Yeah. Okay. So the first part, to check if your device falls under the 3.3 part of the RED directive, is to do a risk assessment for your product. So basically, you have to ask yourself, does your device have any harmful effect on the network or the internet? Second, does your device ensure the personal data or privacy data is protected? And the third part is, does your device use fraud protection function, so that you're not able to do any financial fraud with your device? This means we have to decide. In the first part, there was the mentioning of your device being connected to the internet. What does that mean? So you might have devices that are connected directly to the internet, maybe your mobile phone via LTE, something like that. You might have an internet router, and there might be, your PC might be connected to the internet router. So your mobile phone, in this case, is directly connected to the internet via LTE, and your Wi-Fi PC is indirectly connected via the internet router to the internet. There might be some devices that are questionable. So, for example, the Bluetooth sensor in the upper row. The Bluetooth sensor might have some capabilities to connect to the internet, maybe with the Bluetooth standard. I think it's 4.1, where they introduced the capabilities of IPv6 communication. This means there might be a possibility that also the Bluetooth sensor might connect to the internet via any IP protocol, but that has to be defined in your risk assessment, the capabilities of your device are. And there are also some devices that are not connected. So if your device doesn't use any IPv4 or v6 capabilities, normally you're not connected to the internet.
And this question surely is very important in the end, whether you have a direct or indirect connection or no connection at all for the risk assessment of the product at the end. Thank you.
Welcome.
Can we go on?
Sure. So we have, for example, a fictional what is called PMR, right?
Yes.
We talk about
Personal mobile radio.
personal mobile radio, right? So this device is only used for communication if you're on the road and maybe talking to friends or something like that. So does it affect the internet or any operation of the internet? Does it have any personal data available on the product? And is there any possibility of doing fraud with your device? So this is the question we ask for this device. And from my point of view, the device is not connected to the internet. There are completely other IP protocols, completely other protocols, no IP protocols. And you don't store any, normally you don't store any personal data on your device, and you don't pay with such a device. So the answer to all of these is no. So your device is not something we need to further discuss with the EN 18031 standard, but you have to do a risk assessment for your device. And this risk assessment, you basically say, my device doesn't cause any effects on the IP, on IP networks and the internet. It doesn't store any personal data, and it's not doing any financial transaction. This means I don't have any risk in my device in these cases. So and then you're done. So basically, you do your risk assessment, and then you're done. You don't have to do any more work.
Perfect. Do you also have an example where we do have to do the risk assessment and it is applicable for us?
Sure.
And
We have this one in the later slides, I think. Next one. Let me check.
Yeah.
So this is basically what we call an island solution. Your device is just there. It has capabilities for radio communication, but it's not further. Doesn't have to be further discussed if it's causing any harm. So this is, I think, what you wanted.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so this is a Raspberry Pi, and it has different capabilities. And what makes it applicable for the RAD is that it has wireless capabilities. So the 5 gigahertz wireless and the Bluetooth connection are why it's falling under the RAD.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we have to look at the device and see which capabilities the device has. So it may have effects on the internet or any other network via IP communication over the installed Ethernet connector or the wireless connection Wi-Fi. Personal data might be available in the product, and there's a question if you could do financial transaction with the device. And in this case, this was what I was saying earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The 5 gigahertz could do communication with the internet, and the Ethernet could do communication with the internet, and you also able to do communication over USB if you have another device that's plugged in. So basically, you have to take the RD into account. If any personal data is stored, is depending on the application which is run on the device. So the device itself, maybe not, but depends on the application. This is the same for the F part. So regarding the financial data, depends on what is used in the application of the device. Okay. So basically what we're doing first is the risk assessment. So we're going to the different section of the standards and have a look at it and discuss and describe if it's applicable for the standard. So for example, Bluetooth Low Energy is normally not considered to be able to communicate with the internet itself. So 4.0 has no IP capabilities, and thus it's not able to communicate with the internet. Same applies for Profibus, and there's no personal data stored and no financial data stored. So this would be, if your device would have these capabilities, you basically done with describing it this way, and that's all right. So, but if your device has some other capabilities, like using Wi-Fi and is able to communicate via TCP, you need to verify the compliance by the 18031-1 standard, -1, because of the communication with the internet and communication with IP networks. So, the risk assessment, that means you can do an island solution if your device doesn't communicate with anything else. Family approvals are depending on the model. So if your device behaves in all the parts of the RED the same, there is a possibility to family approval. If it, maybe something, one of your devices has just a bit of more memory or something like that, you could do family approval. But it's pretty hard to match all the different sections, all the different parts of the standard to be exactly the same. So this is only then only you can do the family approval. You have to look at your device if indirect connections to the network are possible, and is your device able to speak internet, for example.
At the point risk assessment, I would have another poll for you. Did you already do a risk assessment according to the RED Article 3.3? So the question is available now or in a few seconds. And it would be interesting for us to get information. Did you already do some risk assessment here for the cybersecurity already? And major answers, no, as we expected, honestly. A few already have done. That's nice to see. But most of you did not. So you're quite right here in this session to get some information about it.
Thanks. Oh, that's it. Okay, it's all right.
Perfect. To the risk assessment. So now there are also some assets, right, in the norm described.
Yeah, assets. This is the next part. Sorry, assets is what the securities the 18031 standard calls something that needs to be protected. So there, for the first part of the standard, the -1, this is about network connectivity and internet connectivity. So a network asset is a configuration on your device or a service running on your device, and the security asset is an asset that's used to protect the network asset. So this could be like the network configuration, and you need a password to access the configuration. So password would be security asset, and network asset would be the network configuration would be the network asset. And the same is for the same principle applies for the -2. There you have security assets that are protecting privacy assets. like personal data. And the -3 part is protecting financial data with security assets. And all the different, these are the requirements of the 18031 standard. So you have all your assets in these sections, and you have to describe how an access control mechanism, for example, protects your security assets, so your network assets, your privacy assets, and so on. And basically, we go through all the sections of the standard and do an assessment of all the functions and capabilities of your device. And as you can see, there are a lot of things to consider, but some parts of the standard, like the logging, is only applicable for privacy data and for financial data.
I've heard a lot about decision trees, right, in this norm.
That's also a big part of the standard. So basically, if you have a function on your device that needs to be documented, you go through the decision trees and you decide if, for example, protection is required for this asset, or how you do the protection for the asset. And basically, the verdict of your decision tree could be pass, fail, or not applicable. Basically, pass is what you're going for. Not applicable, but is also in different parts what's totally fine. And the protection for the asset in this example is not necessary. Maybe there are some assets that are public, so you don't need any protection. If you go to fail, that's basically not meaning that you're going to fail the whole testing, or you're not your standard. You're not compliant to the standard. What it means is that you have something you need to discuss in your risk assessment. So basically, there are things that you can do to that you have fail. For example, you have secure communication in your device. So assets have to be communicated in a secure fashion. But if you have a device that needs to be compatible to earlier versions of the device for legacy devices, and it's an intended function of your device to have also the possibility to talk to older devices, then you're not using the latest cryptography, you're not using the latest encryption for the communication, but it might be okay if that's the intended standard to the intended use to connect legacy devices. This depends totally at the use case. So the decision trees help to check if the standard is applicable, and if your measures against harm are appropriate to the function of the device, and they are applied to each network asset and each security asset, or each privacy asset, and so on. So, for example, usernames, configuration, and so on.
So, could you sum it up for us? What is the most important part of the EN 18031?
The risk assessment and the documentation of all your assets.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
So, but what we don't do with the conformity of the 18031 standard is functional protocol tests. We're not doing any pen testing and or highly sophisticated attacks on your device. So it's basically baseline security for the basic security level.
Perfect. So Tobias, thank you very much for this explanation of the new standard. And yeah, so now it is the standard is there, but how to realize it in the real world. With Elektronik always has the radio modules which are already certified for CE or for FCC for North America, and so it's easy to bring them into use. But how could it be done with this new cybersecurity stuff? Adi, perhaps you can tell us some things about it.
So as we understood now, it's the 18031 standard is all about doing a risk assessment to make sure that the end device doesn't harm the internet. So this is the whole root cause of it. So what we do already, or we are on it for almost a year now to make sure that we are up to the standards when it comes to cybersecurity, is on all our IP-based devices. That is what we learned now, directly connected to the internet. So there we already do a risk assessment and also get these modules certified according to the EN 18031 norm. So we are working together with our colleagues from Phoenix Testlabs to get our first radio module certified, which is a Wi-Fi based module with specific use case of connecting or sending data via the internet into cloud platforms. So that is where we have started. So the idea is that we already do a risk assessment for this very sophisticated, or the device, that the interface that goes through to the internet, and then what is remaining is to then consider additional interfaces that you have or additional assets that you have in your end device. So it's much easier to perform a risk assessment at your end. We provide all the information from our side that is required for the risk assessment already in our user manuals and so on. So in the end, if you use a radio module, it should be much easier to perform this whole risk assessment, right? So, I mean, in the end, it's all about performing the risk assessment ourselves, understanding the risks, accepting it for certain use cases, and then also clearly communicating this to our customers in this case. And this applies to you as well. So finally, it's about understanding the risks, and it's not about building the most secure device in the world. That is not what these standards are for. It's about understanding the risks and communicating the risks clearly to the next stakeholder, right? So this is where we also, as a module manufacturer, do our part by certifying our devices according to the latest standards.
Yeah, and this module you have mentioned, is there a special functionality inside, or what is the reason that this is your first device for cybersecurity?
So the whole idea behind this module is to provide secure cloud connectivity, right? So when it comes to cloud connectivity with respect to different internet platforms, nowadays you're not allowed to have unsecure communication. So when we talk about MQTT over TLS, this is mandatory for all connectivity to cloud nowadays. So there, the biggest challenge is how do you bring in your keys? How do you provision your private keys that are used for the whole encryption and TLS authentication processes? So there we work with our partners, CryptoQuantic, with a platform called QuarkLink. So the idea here is to completely automate this process of provisioning the devices in the field with private keys. So as long as the private key comes in contact with a human person, there is always a big vulnerability there. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
So we have a concept of zero-touch provisioning, wherein you don't need any human intervention. The keys are generated in the device in a secure manner, so the private keys are never exposed to anybody. Even we cannot read the keys to be fully transparent there. And we use standard state-of-the-art technology, which is TLS plus mutual key exchange mechanisms in order to implement this in the field and in a scalable fashion. So here with Cordelia and our QuarkLink platform, we provide secure cloud connectivity with wherein the customer doesn't have to worry about all the provisioning of the private keys, the certificates and so on. It is all taken care by us, so that the focus can remain on their end application rather than the nitty-gritties of cybersecurity.
And in the end, Würth Elektronik makes the risk management or risk assessment easy to get a assessment there.
So there are cases where risk assessment involves, defining mechanisms to protect these assets. For example, the firmware on a radio module or on a microcontroller is definitely an asset which needs to be protected. And what do we do to do this? So we implement secure boot mechanisms, so wherein the whole firmware is signed and only valid firmware where authenticity and integrity of the firmware is checked can be booted up on the module itself. So these are kind of things that we already take care of, and also provide inputs to the customers on how to make sure that in their end application, the modules that are used are also really secure.
Perfect. Thank you, Adi. So now it is time for your questions. We already have some, and you can, of course, bring in more and more questions like you want to. In the German sessions, there were more than 100 questions, so that's your challenge, right? First question, I think for you, Tobias. Does a Bluetooth toothbrush need to be considered for RED?
What you have to do is the risk assessment of your device. And if you find out in your risk assessment that the device doesn't pose any threats to the internet, you're basically fine. I would say that normally is the case for Bluetooth toothbrush.
Yeah. Is there a case where this Bluetooth toothbrush could be a topic in the RED, that there is the problem of cybersecurity to be recognized?
For example, if it uses a later version of Bluetooth starting from 4.1, I guess, where IPv6 was introduced into the Bluetooth standard, and when that's implemented in the protocol stack of your device, and it has a possibility to connect to any other devices via IP, then it would be in the applicable area. Is
also the update possibility a topic there for this toothbrush? Whether it is manually or automatically asking for updates or something like that?
If it's asks any server in the internet directly through IP communication, this would be a case. Okay. If there's only the configuration, let's say, via your smartphone, then this is basically just the communication between your smartphone and the toothbrush, and they're just communicating over Bluetooth without IP. There's no need to consider it further than in the risk assessment.
Very good. So, next question. Is there a difference between an app displaying values and providing a downloadable file? Should apps be evaluated?
Apps are not currently in the scope of the standard. We are currently only checking devices that have a radio communication interface, and apps are normally not considered in this case.
So software will be part of the Cyber Resilience Act in the future, right?
The whole package and the whole process of doing something is in the CRA.
So from 2028 on, I will be responsible that also my firmware and software parts are somehow cyber secure.
This is basically the idea behind the whole CRA.
Is there something I could do already today, or I should do already today? Are there some questions I can ask myself, or?
Right, if you go through all the parts that are listed, so access control, secure updates, cryptography, if you go all through these parts, and you can check if your device is more or less compliant, if it's if you're using best practice, if you're using cryptography, and so on, you're on a good track. So the 18031 standard is basically like the first stepping stone into the CRA.
Yeah. Oh, very good.
And just adding to this point, maybe it's again the key point here, takeaway is risk assessment, because as long as you're doing risk assessment for your end device, you could also do the same for your software component for the entire system. So risk assessment basically is what I would call as takeaway from this point of view even for the Cyber Resilience Act. When we talk about risk assessment, it seems a little complicated, but when you just consider this, how do you do this practically? It's about answering 4 questions, right? So what is my asset that I'm protecting? What am I protecting against, right? And why do I need to protect it? And the last question is, how do I protect it? So the first question answers, what is your asset? The second question typically answers, what is the vector? What are the vectors of attack? So what am I protecting against? So it can be remote bug injection attack, or the denial of service attack, and so on and so forth. So what I'm trying to achieve by these protecting my asset is I'm trying to achieve the integrity of my asset. I'm trying to achieve authenticity of my asset, and so on. And finally, the last point is the mechanism. How do I protect it? It may be having encryption enabled, or performing a specific authentication mechanism, and so on and so forth. So if you're able to answer these 4 principal questions, and take this into your development processes right away, right? And you will have a very good chance of being prepared for the Cyber Resilience Act already. So that this is what I would say as best practice already into the looking forward towards CRA. And also, I think this is also mentioned in the standards of the 18031, security by design, which means consider cybersecurity as a very principal component of your design and do it as soon as possible. and in very early stage of design. So these are a few best practices that we can recommend, right?
In a broad way, the RED will also be the base for the Cyber Resilience Act, right? Because it will be based on it.
That's correct. Yeah.
Somehow. Okay, thank you. So we can do the next question. Can Cordelia be integrated with other cloud systems like AWS or Azure, or only with this mentioned QuarkLink?
Basically, the QuarkLink platform is just acting as an authentication server. So the idea here is that you connect your end device directly to your cloud of choice. It can be Azure, AWS, or any platform that supports MQTT, basically. So the QuarkLink here is just a service that provides the credentials and all the required parameters and provisions this to the device securely. On the other hand, also onboards the device to the cloud. So this is like an intermediary position. After the first step of provisioning, the telemetry data that is generated by the device goes directly to your cloud platform. So we don't listen to the data that comes in, and this way it is also secure and also make sure that the privacy here is still intact.
It's somehow privacy by design because the cloud system does not know about the keys and the other way around.
Yes.
The key system does not know about the data.
Correct.
Oh, very good.
That's the idea.
Cool. Thank you. So next question. How strictly will RED be enforced from August 2025 on? What do you think?
That's a legal perspective. I cannot tell you anything about how legal will enforce the RD directive.
Yeah.
That's beyond my comprehension right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but from experience, we already know that here internally, at least for the radio standards, there are often checks that are performed, and you do get questions about whether you're compliant or not, and if not, then there are quite severe consequences, if I'm not wrong.
It's basically the other way around. If your device is taking part in any DDoS attacks and your device is not certified for red declines, you might have a problem with the lawsuits.
Yeah.
That's
because you cannot show that you are compliant. Yeah, okay, of course, I can understand. So we answered this one. How does EN 18031 standard relate to or differ from the ETSI Cyber Guideline?
I think here ETSI Cyber Guideline is that we're talking about the EN 303645. That is the cybersecurity guideline with respect to consumer IoT devices. So there again, it's best practices, and as Tobias said earlier, we have mapping that is possible between the two standards. EN 18031, I would say, is again focusing on more towards protecting the network, whereas the ETSI EN 303645 is focusing on making sure that the device is secure. So
product itself.
So it's two different perspectives.
Okay, thank you. So I don't see open questions at the moment. So of course you're happy to bring in new or other questions, or you can also, of course, send them later on. So we wait a few seconds, but I don't see further questions, but that's fine. So I would like to thank you, Adi and Tobias, for your help and for your answers on the questions and the presentation. I thank you, the audience, that you participated in our webinar today. And I would like to ask the last question in our poll, how helpful this session was for you. This would be great if you can answer this for us. And as we see a lot, or it helped me. So the first two are the most rated answers. That's very good for us. That's why we intendedly do some such things like this webinar. And yes, some informations. You can download the slides already. You have seen the PDF is available there. And the recording will also be available in a few days. And you will get this link sent by email. And of course, if there is any question, you can reach out to Phoenix Testlab or to Würth Elektronik. and we'll get answers there soon. And thank you again for participating, and I wish you all the best. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.